Let's say you ran into a reading passage with some information that you cannot understand. Maybe they are difficult or unfamiliar to you, but surprisingly, you are not required to understand everything in the passage. I know the frustration when I read a part of a passage that does not make any sense. However, now is the time to practice overcoming perfectionism because you don't need it when you take the SAT. Throw the perfectionism away. So, what do you do when you encounter a reading section that is hard to understand? The best rule is to ignore the unknown and focus on the knowns. Learn to ignore the confusing part of the text you don't understand and instead make every effort to focus on what the question is asking. Really, you should focus on answering questions instead of understanding the passage. If you pay attention to answering questions, you will begin to understand the context of the passage based on the part that you understand. It's like playing a guessing game based on giving hints and trying to fill in the gaps with this hint. This method takes practice, so practice it. Some difficult reading draws its source from the 18th century, which employs an outdated writing style that we are not familiar with. And reading such old writing is definitely not a pleasant experience. Most people hate reading old writings, especially in the tests. I mean, who does? Take a look at this sample reading passage taken from the actual SAT practice test offered by the College Board. This long reading consists of two passages, which make the reading super long, and both passages are based on 1791 and 1792 publications. So when you recognize that the reading passage is from an old source, look for the description of the passage right at the top of the beginning of the passage. For example, in this sample practice test, it reads, questions 31 to 41 are based on the following passages, and then describes more about them in small text. This piece of information is very important, so read it. It describes the context of the passage and where they come from. Passage 1 is adapted from Talleyrand et al. Report on Public Instruction, originally published in 1791. Passage 2 is adapted from Mary Wollstonecraft, A Vindication of the Rights of a Woman, originally published in 1792. So we see that these two passages are from two different sources in the late 18th century. The first one, Report on Public Instruction, sounds very official. The second one, A Vindication of the Rights of a Woman, sounds like a document that appeals to women's rights. Even if you do not know the word vindication, which means justification or defense against blame, that's okay. You still know the important keywords that the second passage is about the rights of women. We are already ignoring the unknown and focusing on the known by doing this, and the description gives further hint to us. It reads, Talleyrand was a French diplomat. The report was a plan for national education. Okay, so we can confirm that the first passage is written by a figure in authority. A French diplomat talking about an issue for a plan for national education sounds very formal. Reading the last part of the description, Wollstonecraft, a British novelist and political writer, wrote Vindication in response to Talleyrand. This sentence completes describing the purpose and relations of the two passages. We can safely assume that the French diplomat wrote something against women's rights, and then the British novelist wrote writing that supports women's rights. In sum, the two passages revolve around the theme of women's rights. We can see that there is so much information contained in this little description part. So make sure to read the description in every reading passage to draw essential information out of it and understand the context. Hence, the key takeaway for today's video is you should practice ignoring the unknown deliberately. And don't forget to read the brief introduction to each reading passage. Practice it, and you will be rewarded with higher scores. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and like and subscribe to this amazing channel. See you again.